Namaste and welcome to Taiyari Sabke Saath, a series of inclusive conversations on building disaster preparedness with communities where persons with disabilities are not an afterthought but at the core. In India, when crises like pandemics, floods, or cyclones strike, people with disabilities and those living with long term conditions often face layered risks. The Tayari Sabke Saath series is anchored by Astha, a Delhi based organization that's been working for over 33 years to promote disability rights and inclusion in low income urban communities. Our conversations are a lead up to the launch of two upcoming studies that explore how community based rehabilitation and community based inclusive development supported persons with disabilities during the COVID-19 crisis and other overlapping disasters. The research features five grassroots organizations: Astha in Delhi, Jan Swasthya Sahyog in Chhattisgarh, Ishwar Sankalp in Kolkata, Sadhana in Odisha, and Sanchar in West Bengal. The two reports are going to launch on 7th of July in Kolkata, 15th of July in Delhi. A third report featuring Astha, Sadhana, and Sanchar will follow soon, so stay tuned. So, the two studies we are going to discuss today emerge from two different places: tribal areas in Chhattisgarh and the streets of Kolkata. To understand these studies better and the reality of people with disabilities, I'm joined by Suhasini Bali, who has led the research in both these studies. Welcome, Suhasini ma'am.
So, we all know that, when we talk about gender, when we talk about women, when we talk about girls, and we talk about persons with disabilities, or when we talk about girls with disabilities, when we talk about women with disabilities, then how do we talk about how their experiences are being shaped in this society? So, like when we talk about gender, when we talk about disabilities, so they all intersect with, the places they live in. They actually intersect with the different realities they're part of, be it their class identity, be it their caste identity, be it the location they are part of. So, all of these really shape not just their experience or not just their access to care, but also their visibility. So, we all know that women with disabilities, or we say girls with disabilities, are, like often last to look at. But also, when we talk about crisis, where are they? One in terms of their needs, but another in terms of how their needs increases, but also how they become more responsive to the needs of others who arrive.
So, ma'am, you have worked at the intersection of gender, disability, and mental health for many years. And being part of the two studies in such different regions, which was, one in rural and then one in urban, these must have brought up different kinds of reflection, right? So, what did holding these two studies across such different geographies open up for you in terms of how we understand care and how we understand exclusion?
So, I guess across conversations we have had, when I think of my conversations with women I met in Orissa or women I met in Chhattisgarh, both were in the rural tribal villages. So these were all villages that were very remote, and women who are majorly dependent on agriculture work. These women with disabilities who are majorly doing very small scale farming work, or are doing, like working little daily wage earner they are, or maybe, migrant workers, the women who are living in Delhi urban slums, or women with disabilities who are living on the streets of Calcutta, or 24 South Pargana in West Bengal. So it was really, I guess, it's how gender, disability, the geography, the caste, the religion they come from, the language they speak, the family, the number of family members, the perception the family members holds, the kind of communities they live in, that all shape into how they how they really are and how they really feel about themselves. So I guess across conversations, they have talked about their experiences of growing come together in experiences is that all of them actually talked about how they felt growing up. And when I say growing up, it was their relationships. When I say relationship, it's relationships at home, it's relationships with friends, it's relationship with neighbors. So everyone talked about, how they were being perceived, how they were being, what were the behaviors. So what were the words being said? What were the words being not said? So all of those experiences, how that have shaped their self-esteem, and that really stay with them. So a lot of women we met are in their middle age, or are older women we met, but they all talked about their childhood experiences. So it is actually the gendered socialization coupled with, like a lot of exclusion that they have faced because of their disability, along with the different realities they all are living with, that has really shaped how they are being perceived. And one thing that I say that really was something that stayed with me and was coming out, was having no space for having conversations about their desires, having conversations about romantic relationships, because across 100 people we have met, so the older women we have met were not married. So I'm not saying that marriage is something to be is a thing to do, but it's a choice, of course. But the point is how they're excluded from the conversation of even exploring their desires or exploring the conversations about, their own sexuality, their reproductive health, about romantic relationships. So these conversations they're not part of, because I still remember sitting with this woman in Mayurbhanj Odisha that we were talking about, because all of her peers were, other women who were married. So she kept talking about, I go and play with children of this woman, I go and play with children of this other friend, or I go and help this woman. So I guess what really was across was this loneliness. So I'm not saying this loneliness is about romantic relationship, but this loneliness is also about friendships, talking about what they like to do, and being in spaces where they don't feel that they would have to hide their identity, or they would have to, be hesitant about anything, and they have really explored themselves. So I guess this journey of being really of living with, self doubt, isolation, because of how the interaction with community has been, how that has evolved with these community based strategies. Because at the end it was relationships, it is the community, how the person interacts with systems.
In fact, I know that in both the studies, we have seen that women had held the invisible yet central roles, as you were also talking about. So, how did gender show up in such spaces, both in giving and receiving care? I know that you've already touched base upon the care part, but if you could just briefly also tell us about that segment.
So, so talking about Astha, so we're working for more than 30 years in urban slums of Delhi, and across different areas where we work with children with disabilities. It's the mother who come to the
Yeah.
center. It's the mother who come to us to just, have a conversation, or to understand that, how to engage with their child, or how to engage with, system in the sense of the health system or the education system. So it's not a easy process. We all know that it's the burden that a mother faces. So she's already fighting not just the community, she is fighting within her family itself. So I've heard, like, so every day is the story of how every mother fight to just seek support for their child. So just coming out of a home, seeking care or seeking some support for their child, is the blame that the women take. So a woman who is already in an institution of marriage, which is already gendered, with, where her mobility is restricted, where she already has domestic care burden, she has the
Right.
burden of take care of others, she has to, do the cleaning work, she has to prepare food. With all of this, the care work is not a choice. So, and then with all of this, it's the journey the mothers take with the children. And
Correct.
a mother, like we meet so many women who have not even interacted with the systems. So women who have not even taken an auto to a hospital have ever been to. So for a women, they start from there, like with their child. Then if they have to go seek and interact with a with, like with a system like hospital, or with a system like schools, so it's that journey and she has no breaks in it. So you say how it's them, and what happens then? It's the women who would miss chances. It's
Correct.
the woman who would miss chances for higher education. It's the woman who would miss chances for livelihood opportunity. It's the woman who would miss chances and compromise on her health. So it is a woman who would miss chances for her own aspirations or different roles she want to take. So leisure, choices, or recreation is a far reach goal. The
I,
basic things only that she would not have access to.
so, in your view, what values or approaches do you feel we need to protect and build on as we move forward from these studies?
So now that, like we see a lot of discussion around gender awareness, gender sensitivity, there is a level of awareness that we see in schools. There's a level of awareness we see in workspaces. So how do we bring the awareness of disability along? Women is not a homogeneous group, right? And when we say disability, disability is also not a homogeneous group. So, how do we really bring in these conversations where we really look at the contextual realities of different women? So, one is that whatever programs we build, whatever solutions we build, it cannot be one fit all. It needs to be contextualized, it needs to be built as per the realities of the areas people are, as per the caste, class, as per the disabilities. And we know that, when we talk about disabilities, there are certain disability group. So how do we take care of them, or how do we really bring focus on them? And then also we have to really integrate men in care work, because
Yeah,
when we are talking about care, or when we are talking about gender, now this is the time we bring in this conversation to younger men we work with, in schools we work with. We need to start with this sensitivity, where this whole gender socialization needs to change. And with that also, like, the disability sensitivity would needs to bring in, because all of us are different. Like, diversity is what we have, be it in terms of gender, be it in terms of disability, or any other identities. And with this, the whole idea of policies, that for the policies we are building, we need to build in community based aspect to it. It can never be a top down approach of reaching out with one solution fit to
agree.
all. We need to build in uh, community groups. So peer groups, peer support groups have been really influential, be it for persons with long-term illnesses, for women, for different disability groups. So peer groups become really, really influential as the relationships that really influence care, and the central part of the frontline workers, these community workers.
Lovely. So, so well put. And I couldn't agree more with all your recommendations, ma'am. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us and helping us connect the dots across places, people, and practices.